We shall now go on to our next speaker, Dr. Shreesh Kumar, who's a senior consultant at the Eye Foundation Group of Hospitals and has been with us for a very long time, and a extremely capable dynamic surgeon and very innovative in his procedures and newer concepts. And he's going to show us something different and interesting. On to you, Dr. Shreesh.
Thank you, Dr. Chitra and team ARC for giving me the opportunity. And I'm going to talk on star Cataract capsulorhexis. We have seen beautiful videos of zeptorhexis in intumescent cataracts from Dr. Manek. I'm just showing a new technique of an inexpensive rhexis technique for intumescent white cataracts. So we all know continuous curvilinear capsulorhexis is extremely important for a safer cataract surgery, as it enables us safe emulsification and in the bag fixation of intraocular lens. And conventional capsulorhexis made by a 26 gauge needle cystitome involves a shearing and tearing action on the capsule, which actually increases the risk of capsular tear extension. So increased intralenticular pressure or intracapsular pressure and decreased anterior chamber pressure can lead to rhexis tear, and rhexis tear can extend unidirectionally or bidirectionally. And if you see here, it's an intumescent cataract. The initial linear capsular tear itself can lead to a tear extension, either uni or bidirectionally. And here it is an Argentinian flag sign. Thus, it complicates the cataract surgery. So, by reducing the intravitreal pressure or upthrust from behind and increasing the anterior chamber pressure by injecting visco or high molecular weight viscosity agents, and without allowing the chamber to collapse and choosing a right technique of CCC, we can achieve capsulorhexis in almost all the cases. Now we have what is called a star Cataract capsulorhexis, which has got two components, and it's a new manual technique for creating a continuous curvilinear capsulorhexis for intumescent total cataracts. The first component is creating a star-shaped tear in the anterior capsule, and the second component is cannula vacuum rhexis, using a cannula to create a rhexis. So on the left-hand side, we have a total mature cataract, and this is the right-hand side, we have a intumescent total cataract. So we are creating a star-shaped tear in the anterior capsule, which actually distributes tension on the capsular tear margin, and it prevents unil or bidirectional tear extension to a large extent. The second component is using a cannula. This is a 25 gauge cannula, which is a flat tipped cannula attached to a 5 ml syringe, half filled with PSS. By withdrawing the piston, you are going to create vacuum, and by pushing the piston, you are going to release the vacuum, and this is used for creating a rhexis. This is called Cataract capsulorhexis. So we published this particular technique in JCRS in the year 2019, and further the next year itself we published a huge data of around 890 cases in the International Journal of Ophthalmology, and recently the latest volume of IGO, we published the star Cataract continuous capsulorhexis for intumescent cataracts. So we included 260 cases of 260 patients, and the procedure is most of the cases we did it under peribulbar anesthesia, and the anterior chamber is filled with the ophthalmic viscosurgical device, and multiple centripetal tears are created in the center of anterior lens capsule in the shape of a star using a regular 26 gauge cystitome. Then using a 25 gauge flat tip cannula, which is connected to a 5 ml syringe half filled with the BSS. The free capsular flap was grasped with vacuum, and the suction was created. And in a controlled motion, we create a circular rhexis without withdrawing the instrument from the anterior chamber, and thus it prevents collapsing of the anterior chamber. And we are aspirating the liquefied or viscous cortex with the same cannula. And the capsule near the base of the tear is re-grasped several times to complete the rhexis. And the results were excellent. Only one case had a rhexis tear extension, but none of the cases had a PC tear or Argentinian flag sign. And the advantages of this star canavac rhexis is it reduces the initial tear extension, and it's an inexpensive technique, and control the rhexis without withdrawing the cannula from the antechamber is possible, so that it prevents collapse of the chamber, and thus it prevents chances of rhexis runoff to the periphery. So I conclude that this particular technique of star canavac capsulorhexis is a safe and affordable and maybe an alternative promising technique to routine CCC by using the 26 gauge 60 tome or Utrata or microrhexis forceps, or expensive techniques like femto or septo capsulotomy techniques in challenging cases like white intumescent cataracts. Thank you very much.
Shreesh, that was a nice one. Can I give you a small suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
You can have a spring attached like what we used to have for the Simcoe on that vacuum cannula for the syringe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a little difficult to manipulate that.
Otherwise, it would be really difficult to do the in and out again.
Yeah, we can try that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Nice.
Nice. Thank you.
Ma'am, you're muted.
Say that making those small nicks in a very tense intumescent capsule, even those small tiny nicks could just trigger off an extension. What tricks do you use to ensure that you are able to make those multiple small nicks and they stay the way they are?
Actually, the chamber with the I usually use only the low HPMC only for filling the anterior chamber and flattening the anterior capsule. But these usually stays. It is like our old can opener capsulotomy technique. So with the can opener capsulotomy techniques, because of the redistribution of the forces on these capsular tears, the chances of rhexis, the tear extension is less. Yes. Something similar to that.
Yes. I truly understand the logic behind it. And of course, I mean, each of us can do anything, a puncturexis, a small rhexis, and canvac sounds interesting. And of course, flags. I think there's not too much to discuss here. Anybody has to comment, or shall we go on to the next presentation?
When you aspirate the capsule using the cannula, the capsule being a planar sort of thing, won't there be a lot of space around it through which the contents of the anterior chamber, like the viscoelastic you have inserted, also gets aspirated, and therefore there's a tendency that unless you keep on refilling the chamber, the volume cannot be maintained?
No, actually, like we have paid for it.
Shreesh, louder?
Yeah, no. Usually, the chamber collapse doesn't happen with this technique. There's the beauty of this technique. We are not coming out of the anterior chamber, and at the same time, we are aspirating. Sometimes it will be difficult to aspirate viscous cortex, but semi-viscous or loose cortex or the milky cortex, it's very easy, and it is possible. Like you are creating a space between the capsule and the nucleus by aspirating the viscous cortex, and you have enough space for holding the capsule either from the anterior surface or from behind the under surface of the capsule.
No, my question was
either way.
So I'll answer your question. I do a lot of viscoeless cataract surgery. Okay, so when we are doing viscoeless cataract surgery, we can do rhexis with either a needle with irrigation going from the left hand, or you can make a nick on the capsule with a needle and then complete the rest of the capsular rhexis with the aspiration port, like an irrigation aspiration bimanual. And when you're doing that, the main problem is that when you're holding, even if the viscoelastic is not there, it's only pure saline. The only issue is the fluttering of the capsule. So what you have to do is you have to actually put the as the irrigation over the capsule and then holds it flat over the lens. And then you just have to hold it with the aspiration and complete your axis. Hold the capsule, complete your axis.
You are
So
going.
he's doing it manually with the syringe. That's the only difference. He can
But there is
actually
no
do it with an
irrigation. There is
aspiration.
no inflow is my point.
So he's using a viscoelastic along with it.
No, it
Or
is
the balance
actually,
also.
I fill the chamber once before starting this, and then I go with the syringe, which is half filled with BSS. I go very close to the tear, the cut capsular margin, and aspirate the this thing capsular margin only. That's the back surface of the capsule.
The
So
one
we are
step
not
further.
aspirating yeah.
I agree. So it's basically the same premise, the same technique. So either you're doing it with the syringe or you're doing with the machine. So it's going to be the same technique. So you're going to be holding the capsule and tearing it off over that. And it's much more control, believe me, compared to the needle.
But then what is the benefit over holding it with a Rexis forceps? This technique.
The moment you're opening up a bigger wound, the viscoelastic that comes out is much more. If you're going into the side port,
doing it through the side port, no?
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely. So there are many more ways of reaching Rome. So this is just
Yeah.
one more way.
One more way. Yeah. Right.